The massive ships appeared in Earth's sky without warning. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his defense cruiser Liberty, watching the alien fleet block out the sun. He had never seen anything so big. The smallest enemy ship was 3 times larger than his own vessel. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over the world," his communications officer said. "They're everywhere. London, Tokyo, New York, Moscow. Hundreds of ships." Jake gripped the railing harder. Earth's defense fleet had only 50 ships. The aliens had brought what looked like 1,000. Send word to all units. We fight. The first. Shots came from the alien fleet. Bright blue beams cut through space like deadly lightning. Jake watched in horror as the defense station above North America exploded in a ball of fire. The metal pieces floated away like scattered toys. Return. Fire. Jake shouted. The Liberty's plasma cannons shot back, but the alien ships had energy shields. The human weapons bounced off like raindrops on glass. Jake's heart sank. Their best weapons could not even scratch the enemy. On the surface of Earth, Lieutenant Amy Carter was leading her soldiers through the ruins of New York City. The alien attack had lasted only 2 hours, but the city was already broken. Tall buildings lay on their sides like fallen trees. Fires burned everywhere, filling the air with black smoke. "How many survivors?" Amy asked her sergeant. "Maybe 10,000 in our sector," the man replied. "The aliens are landing troops now." Amy looked up at the sky. Large alien ships were floating down like metal clouds. When they touched the ground, strange beings came out. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and forearms. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. "Set up defensive positions," Amy ordered. "We make our stand here." The alien soldiers moved forward in perfect lines. They carried weapons that shot green energy beams. When the beams hit human soldiers, the people simply disappeared. No blood, no screams. Just gone. Amy's troops fired, back with their rifles and rocket launchers. Some aliens fell, but for every one they killed, 10 more took its place. The aliens seemed to have endless numbers. Above the planet, Jake was fighting a losing battle. His ship was one of the last still flying. The alien weapons were too powerful. Every shot from the enemy ships could destroy a human vessel. "Captain, the engine is failing," his engineer reported. "We have maybe 5 minutes before we lose power." Jake looked at the view screen. Earth was covered in smoke and fire. The beautiful blue planet he had sworn to protect was dying. "Any word from the other ships?" "The Chicago is gone. The Berlin, too. We might be the last one left." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them with new determination. "Set course for the largest alien ship. Full speed." "Sir, that's suicide." "Maybe, but we're going to take some of them with us." The Liberty flew straight at the alien command ship. Jake could see the enemy vessel getting bigger and bigger on the screen. The alien ship was so large it looked like a floating city. Just before impact, Jake whispered, "For Earth." The explosion lit up the sky, but it barely scratched the alien ship. The enemy was too strong. On the ground, Amy was trapped in a building with her last 12 soldiers. The aliens had surrounded them. Through the broken windows, she could see the gray-skinned creatures moving closer. "We're out of ammunition," one of her men said. Amy nodded. She had expected this. The aliens were too advanced. Humans had fought with courage, but courage alone was not enough against such superior technology. The alien commander walked into the building. He was taller than the others, with gold markings on his armor. When he spoke, his voice was like metal scraping against stone. "You will surrender now," the alien said in broken English. "Your species is defeated." Amy stood up straight. "We will never surrender." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are destroyed. Your planet is ours. You will work for us now, or you will die." Around the world, the same scene was happening. Human resistance was crumbling everywhere. The aliens were too strong, too advanced, too numerous. In 6 hours, they had conquered a planet that humans had thought was safe. General Korthevel, the alien occupation commander, stood in his new headquarters in what used to be the United Nations building. He looked out at the burning city and felt satisfied. Another world had fallen to the Zephyrian Empire. "Report," he commanded. "All major cities are under our control," his aides said. "Human military resistance has ended. We estimate 20 million survivors worldwide." "Good. Begin." "The mining operations. This planet has useful metals. Put the humans to work in the mines." The aide hesitated. "Should we be concerned about continued resistance?" General Korthevel laughed. "From these primitive creatures? Look at their technology. They still use chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They are barely above animals. There is nothing to fear from humans." As the alien general spoke, deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, ancient machines began to stir. For thousands of years, they had slept in the darkness, waiting for this moment. The machines could sense the crisis above. They could feel humanity's desperation and fear. Slowly, very slowly, the ancient systems began to wake up. But General Korthevel knew nothing of this. He was too busy celebrating his easy victory. Like all the aliens, he believed humans were weak and primitive. He had no idea that his army had just awakened something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Something that would change everything. 3 months had passed since the aliens conquered Earth. Dr. Lisa Brooks crouched in the shadows of the labor camp, watching the gray-skinned guards patrol the fence. The Zephyrians had built these camps all over the world to house human workers. Was an archaeologist before the invasion. Now she was prisoner number 4891, forced to dig in the mines 12 hours a day. Tonight, she was planning to escape. "You ready?" whispered Tony Garcia, crouching beside her. Tony had been a construction worker before the war. Now he was the camp's secret resistance leader. Lisa nodded. They had been planning this for weeks. Tony had found a weak spot in the fence where the alien sensors didn't work properly. If they moved fast and stayed quiet, they might make it to the mountains. The 2 guards walked past their hiding spot. Lisa and Tony waited until they were gone, then ran to the fence. Tony had hidden some wire cutters in the ground nearby. He quickly cut through the metal wires. "Come on," he whispered. They crawled through the hole and ran into the dark forest. Behind them, the camp lights grew smaller. They had made it out, but Lisa knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would discover their escape by morning. They walked through the night, heading toward the Himalayan mountains. Lisa had a theory about what was happening there. For the past month, the camp prisoners had felt small earthquakes. The alien guards seemed nervous about something, but they wouldn't say what. "Why are we going to the mountains?" Tony asked as they climbed up a rocky path. "Before the invasion, I was working on an archaeological dig in this area," Lisa explained. "We found some very old cave paintings. They showed strange symbols that we couldn't understand. But after the earthquake started, I remembered something." She pulled out a small notebook from her jacket. She had hidden it from the aliens for months. "Look at this." Tony looked at the drawings in the notebook. They showed human figures, but they were different somehow. They seemed to be flying through space, fighting creatures that looked like the Zephyrians. "These paintings are over 10,000 years old," Lisa said, "but they show humans with advanced technology, fighting aliens that look exactly like our invaders." Tony frowned. "That's impossible. 10,000 years ago, humans were living in caves. That's what we always believed. But what if we were wrong? They reached the cave entrance just as the sun was rising. Lisa had been here before, but something was different now. The cave was glowing with a soft blue light that came from deep inside. That light wasn't there before, Lisa said. They entered the cave carefully. The blue light grew brighter as they went deeper. The cave paintings on the walls seemed to be moving in the strange light. Lisa could see more details now than ever before. The paintings told a story. They showed humans living among the stars, traveling between planets in great ships. Then came the enemy, creatures that destroyed entire worlds. The humans fought back, but they were losing. Look at this one, Tony said, pointing to a painting near the back of the cave. This painting showed humans fleeing to a small blue planet. They were hiding something deep underground. The painting seemed to suggest that they had chosen to forget their past, to live as primitive people to avoid detection. They came to Earth to hide, Lisa whispered, but they left something behind. The cave ended at a smooth metal wall. It was covered in symbols that seemed to glow brighter when Lisa touched them. She traced one of the symbols with her finger, and suddenly the wall split open. Behind it was a corridor filled with the same blue light. The walls were made of a material that looked like metal, but felt warm to the touch. Strange symbols covered every surface. This is impossible, Tony said. How can this be here? They walked down the corridor until they reached a huge chamber. The ceiling was so high they couldn't see the top. In the center of the room was a tall pillar of light. As they approached it, a voice spoke to them. Welcome, children of Earth. Lisa and Tony spun around, but they couldn't see anyone. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Who are you? Lisa asked. I am the guardian of this facility. You may call me Prometheus. I have been waiting for you to find this place. A figure appeared in the pillar of light. It looked human, but it was made of pure energy. The figure smiled at them. You are not the first to discover this place, Prometheus said. Others have found similar facilities around the world. The awakening has begun. What awakening? Tony asked. The awakening of humanity's true nature. You are not the primitive species you believe yourselves to be. You are the descendants of the greatest warriors this galaxy has ever known. Lisa's heart was racing. The cave paintings, their real history. Yes, your ancestors fled to Earth after a great war. They chose to hide among the stars, living as simple people to avoid detection by their enemies. But they knew this day would come. They knew the enemy would find Earth eventually. Prometheus gestured to the walls around them. This facility contains the knowledge and weapons of your ancestors. But more importantly, it contains the key to unlocking what truly are. What do you mean? Lisa asked. Your ancestors did not just hide their technology. They hid their abilities in your genetic code. Every human alive carries the potential for greatness. The invasion has triggered the awakening of these dormant abilities. Tony looked skeptical. You're saying we have superpowers? I am saying you have the potential to be what your ancestors were. Warriors capable of fighting among the stars. Defenders of entire worlds. But first, you must choose to accept this destiny. Lisa thought about the months of suffering in the labor camp. She thought about Jake Morrison's sacrifice and Amy Carter's courage. She thought about all the humans who had died fighting the invaders. How do we begin? She asked. Prometheus smiled. You already have. By finding this place, you have taken the first step. Now you must spread the word. There are others like you, scattered across the planet. They are all searching for the truth. You must help them find it. The Guardian showed them images of other locations around the world, ancient sites that were now glowing with the same blue light. Humans were discovering them everywhere, learning the truth about their heritage. The enemy calls themselves the Zephyrians, Prometheus explained. But They are servants of a greater evil, the same evil that drove your ancestors to Earth. The Devourers have returned, and they will consume this galaxy unless someone stops them. Lisa felt a strange sensation in her mind. Memories that weren't her own began to surface. She could see vast battles in space, weapons of incredible power, and humans fighting with abilities that seemed impossible. The genetic awakening has begun in you, Prometheus said. Soon you will remember what your ancestors knew. You will become what you were always meant to be. Tony was experiencing the same thing. His eyes were glowing with the same blue light that filled the chamber. I can feel it, he whispered. Something is changing. Go now, Prometheus said. Find the others. The resistance is about to become something much more than human desperation. It is about to become humanity's return to its rightful place in the galaxy. As they left the chamber, Lisa and Tony felt different, stronger, more aware. They had entered the cave as escaped prisoners. They were leaving as something else entirely. The awakening had begun. Amy Carter moved through the ruins of Chicago like a ghost. She had been hiding in the destroyed city for weeks, but something was different about her now. She could see in the dark. She could hear alien footsteps from blocks away. Most importantly, she could move faster than any human should be able to. 3 days ago, she had found the hidden facility beneath the old museum. The Guardian there had told her the same thing that Prometheus had told Lisa and Tony. Humans were not what they seemed to be. They were descendants of ancient warriors, and their abilities were finally waking up. Amy crouched behind a broken wall, watching a patrol of 6 Zephyrian soldiers. Before her awakening, she would have hidden until they passed. Now she felt something else. Hunger. The hunger to fight Dodge. She moved without thinking. One moment she was behind the wall. The next she was among the aliens. Her hands found there. Weapons before they could react. She moved like water, flowing around their clumsy attacks. In 30 seconds, all 6 aliens were dead. Amy stood among the bodies, breathing hard. She had just done something impossible. She had killed 6 armed soldiers with her bare hands. The old Amy would have been terrified. The new Amy felt only satisfaction. Her radio crackled. Amy, this is Jake. Do you copy? Jake Morrison's voice surprised her. She thought he was dead. Jake, how are you alive? Long story. I found one of the facilities. Listen, we need to meet. Something big is happening. There are others like us all over the world. Amy smiled. I know. I can feel them. It's like they're calling to me. The facility told me about a gathering point. Old coordinates in the Himalayas. Can you make it there? Amy looked at the dead aliens around her. A month ago, this would have been impossible. Now it felt easy. I'll be there. She began running toward the mountains. As she ran, she realized she wasn't getting tired. Her body felt different, stronger. She could run for hours without needing to rest. Meanwhile, Jake was having his own revelations. He had survived the destruction of his ship by pure luck. A piece of debris had knocked him unconscious and sent him floating in space. A rescue pod had found him days later. The facility he discovered was hidden in the ruins of the old Pentagon. The Guardian there had shown him star charts and battle plans that were thousands of years old. But more importantly, it had awakened. Something in his mind. Jake could now think about space battles in ways that seemed impossible. He could see tactical situations across entire star systems. He could understand alien technology just by looking at it. It was as if his brain had been upgraded. He stood in the Pentagon facility, looking at a holographic display of the galaxy. The Guardian had shown him the truth about the Zephyrians. They were not the real enemy. They were servants of something much worse. The Devourers, the Guardian explained. They consume entire civilizations. They leave nothing behind but empty worlds. The Zephyrians serve them because they believe it will save their own species. Jake studied the star map. How many worlds have they destroyed? Thousands. Your ancestors fought them for centuries before being forced to flee to Earth. But the Devourers have grown stronger. They now control most of the galaxy. And the Zephyrians think serving them will protect their home world? Yes, but they are wrong. The Devourers consume everything eventually, even their servants. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. But it was not normal anger. It was the anger of generations of warriors who had fought and died against this enemy. The anger of his ancestors flowed through his blood. "Show me how to fight them," he said. The Guardian smiled. "I cannot show you. You already know. The knowledge is in your genes. You simply need to remember." As Jake focused, memories that were not his own began to surface. He could see himself commanding vast fleets of ships, fighting battles among the stars. He could remember weapons that could destroy entire planets and shields that could protect whole solar systems. The awakening is happening everywhere. The Guardian said, "Your species is remembering what it truly is. Soon, you will be ready to face your ancient enemy." In the Himalayas, Lisa and Tony had reached the gathering point. It was another ancient facility, but this one was enormous. The entrance was hidden in a glacier, but the inside was warm and filled with light. Dozens of humans were already there. They all had the same look in their eyes, the look of people who had remembered something important. Lisa recognized some of them from news reports. Scientists, soldiers, ordinary people who had somehow found their way to this place. "Welcome," said a woman who appeared to be in charge. "I am Dr. Karen White. I was the first to find this facility." Karen was a physicist before the invasion. Now she looked different. Her eyes glowed with a faint blue light, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had discovered great power. "How many of us are there?" Lisa asked. "More every day. The facilities are activating all over the world. People are remembering who they really are." Karen led them through the facility. It was bigger than the others, with workshops and laboratories, filled with technology that seemed decades ahead of anything humans had built. "The Guardians have been preparing for this day," Karen explained. "They have been waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. The Zephyrian invasion was that moment." In one of the laboratories, Lisa saw something that made her gasp. It was a weapon, but not like any weapon she had ever seen. It was sleek and beautiful, made of a material that seemed to glow from within. "Try it," Karen said. Lisa picked up the weapon. The moment she touched it, she knew how to use it. The knowledge flowed into her mind like water. She could feel the weapon responding to her thoughts, becoming part of her. "This is incredible," Lisa whispered. "It is only the beginning," Karen said. "Our ancestors left us much more than weapons. They left us the ability to become what they were." Tony had found his way to another section of the facility. Here, he discovered armor that seemed to be made of living metal. When he put it on, it adapted to his body perfectly. He could feel it enhancing his strength and speed. "The genetic modifications our ancestors made are finally activating," Karen explained to the group. "We are becoming what we were always meant to be, warriors capable of fighting among the stars." As more humans arrived at the facility, the truth became clear. The awakening was not just about individuals. It was about the entire species. Humans all over the world were changing, becoming something more than they had ever been. But with the awakening came terrible knowledge. The Guardians showed them the true scale of the threat. The Devourers were not just coming to Earth. They were planning to consume the entire galaxy. "The Zephyrians are just the first wave," Karen explained. "The real enemy is already mobilizing. They have fleets so large they can block out the sun. They have weapons that can crack planets in half. Lisa felt fear for the first time since her awakening. How can we fight something like that? The same way our ancestors did, Karen replied. Together. As one people, the awakening is not just about individual power. It is about remembering that we are all connected, all part of the same warrior race. Jake and Amy arrived at the facility. Within hours of each other, they had both felt the call, the pull that drew all awakened humans to this place. When they saw the assembled group, they knew they had found their true family. The time for hiding is over, Karen announced to the gathering. The time for remembering is over. Now begins the time for war. The assembled humans looked at each other with new understanding. They were no longer the frightened refugees who had hidden from the Zephyrians. They were the descendants of the galaxy's greatest warriors, and they were ready to reclaim their destiny. The awakening was complete. Now the real fight could begin. The first strike came at dawn. Jake Morrison led a fleet of 12 ships that had been hidden in the Himalayan facility. These were not the same ships that had failed against the Zephyrians 3 months ago. These were vessels built by humanity's ancestors, ships that could repair themselves and upgrade their weapons based on the pilot's thoughts. Jake sat in the captain's chair of his new ship, the Defiance. The bridge responded to his mental commands, showing him tactical information across multiple dimensions. He could see the Zephyrian fleet in orbit like a 3-dimensional chess game. All ships begin the attack, Jake commanded. The human ships moved like living things, flowing around the alien defenses. The Zephyrians had not expected this. For 3 months, they had faced no real resistance. Now suddenly, human ships were peering everywhere, striking with weapons that cut through alien shields like paper. General Cortheville watched from his command ship as 3 of his cruisers exploded in balls of fire. How is this possible? He demanded. The humans had no advanced technology. His aide looked terrified. Sir, our sensors cannot track their ships properly. They seem to be using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before. Send. All fighters. Stop them. But the human ships were too fast. They moved like dancers, avoiding every shot while their own weapons found their targets with perfect accuracy. In 15 minutes, Jake's small fleet had destroyed half the Zephyrian orbital forces. On the ground, Amy Carter was leading a different kind of battle. She had gathered 200 awakened humans, and together they were attacking the main Zephyrian base in North America. The base was heavily defended, but the humans moved like ghosts through the alien defenses. Amy wore the living armor she had found in the facility. It made her faster and stronger than any human had ever been. Her weapon fired beams of pure energy that could cut through any material the Zephyrians used. Strike teams Alpha and Beta. Take the left flank, Amy commanded, through her mental link to the other awakened humans. Charlie and Delta, follow me through the center. The awakened humans moved without sound, their enhanced senses allowing them to avoid every patrol. When they did encounter aliens, the fights were over in seconds. The Zephyrian superior technology meant nothing against humans, who could think and move faster than any alien could react. Amy reached the base's command center first. Inside, she found dozens of Zephyrian officers staring at their screens in shock. They were watching their forces being destroyed all over the world. Surrender, Amy said, her weapon pointed at the base commander. The alien commander was the same, one who had captured her 3 months ago. He looked at her with his glowing red eyes, and she could see fear there for the first time. You are still the same primitive species, he said, but his voice was shaking. You cannot have developed such technology so quickly. Amy smiled. We didn't develop it. We remembered it. Meanwhile, in the Himalayan facility, Lisa and Tony were working with Dr. Karen White on a much more important mission. They had captured a Zephyrian command ship, and the information they found inside was shocking. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to a holographic star map. "The Zephyrians aren't just conquerors. They're running from something." The map showed the path of the Zephyrian fleet through the galaxy. Behind them, entire star systems were marked in red. Dead systems. Consumed systems. "The Devourers," Karen whispered. "They're not coming to Earth. They're already here, in the galaxy. The Zephyrians are fleeing from them." Tony studied the tactical reports they had found. According to this, the Devourers have consumed everything in the galactic core. They're moving outward, destroying everything in their path. "And the Zephyrians thought they could buy time by serving them," Lisa said. "They were delivering human worlds to the Devourers, hoping it would satisfy their hunger." Karen activated a communication device they had found on the ship. "This is how the Zephyrians communicate with their masters. We can use it to find the Devourer fleet." The signal led them to a section of space just outside the solar system. When they enhanced the image, what they saw filled them with dread. The Devourer fleet was enormous. Thousands of ships, each one the size of a small moon. They were moving toward Earth slowly, consuming everything in their path. "They're not just coming to Earth," Karen realized. "They're coming to consume this entire part of the galaxy. Earth is just the first stop." Lisa felt the ancient memories stirring in her mind. Her ancestors had fought this enemy before. They had lost entire civilizations to them. But they had also learned their weaknesses. "We need to contact the other awakened humans," she said. "This is bigger than just Earth. We need to warn the entire galaxy." The communication revealed something even more shocking. Humans were not the only species that had been awakened. All across the galaxy, the descendants of the ancient alliance were remembering their true nature. The Zephyrians had unknowingly awakened the very force that had once stood against the Devours. Jake received the message while he was hunting the remaining Zephyrian ships. The news hit him like a physical blow. The enemy they faced was not just the gray-skinned aliens who had conquered Earth. It was the ancient enemy that had driven his ancestors to hide among the stars. But along with the fear came something else. Purpose. For the first time since the invasion, Jake understood why the awakening had happened. Humanity had not been hiding on Earth. They had been waiting. "All ships return to base," Jake commanded. "We have bigger problems than the Zephyrians." The human fleet regrouped at the facility, but they were no longer alone. Other ships were arriving from all over the galaxy. Ships piloted by the awakened descendants of the ancient alliance. The galaxy's sleeping defenders were finally coming home. General Korthovel found himself in an impossible situation. His fleet was destroyed, his bases were captured, and his human prisoners had somehow become more dangerous than his own soldiers. But the worst part was the message he had received from the Devourer fleet. "You have failed," the voice said. It was cold and emotionless, like the sound of dying stars. The harvest was to be completed by now. Instead, you have awakened our ancient enemy. "My lord, the humans were more dangerous than we believed," Korthovel tried to explain. "They have technology that rivals our own." "No, they have technology that surpasses ours. Because it is the same technology that once drove us from half the galaxy. You have awakened the Starbreakers." Korthovel felt his blood freeze. Every child in the Zephyrian Empire knew the stories of the Starbreakers. They were the legendary warriors who had once held back the darkness, who had fought the Devourers to a standstill for 1,000 years. "That is impossible," he whispered. "The Starbreakers are extinct. They disappeared from the galaxy long ago. They did not disappear. They were hiding. And now, because of your failure, they have returned." The communication ended, leaving Korthovel alone with his terror. He had not conquered a primitive world. He had awakened the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known. Above Earth, the human fleet continued to grow. Ships arrived from every corner of the galaxy, piloted by beings who looked different but shared the same ancient heritage. They had all been sleeping, waiting for the call to war. Amy stood in the command center, watching the fleet assemble. Beside her, Jake was coordinating with the other awakened commanders. Lisa and Tony were working with alien scientists who had also remembered their true nature. "How many ships do we have?" Amy asked. 2,000 and growing, Jake replied. "The awakening is spreading faster than we expected. Entire worlds are remembering their purpose. Will it be enough?" Jake looked at the tactical display, showing the approaching Devourer fleet. "It has to be. This is what our ancestors prepared us for. This is why we were hidden away, why we were allowed to multiply and spread across the galaxy." Amy felt this weight of ancient responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was no longer just a human soldier fighting for her home world. She was part of something much larger, much older, and much more important. "When do we strike?" she asked. Jake smiled, and for a moment, Amy could see the ancient warrior that lived within him. "Soon. The Devourers think they're hunting scattered refugees. They don't know that the galaxy's guardians have returned. The resistance was over. The real war was about to begin." The final battle began at the edge of the solar system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as the massive Devourer fleet approached Earth. Behind him, the combined forces of the awakened galaxy waited in formation. The human fleet had grown to over 10,000 ships. But they were not just human anymore. The awakening had spread to dozens of species across the galaxy, all descendants of the ancient alliance that had once stood against the Devourers. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from the Zephyrian fleet," his communications officer reported. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Zephyrian ships were breaking formation, moving away from the Devourer fleet. General Cortheville himself was requesting permission to speak. "Put him through," Jake said. The alien general appeared on the screen. He looked tired and defeated. "Commander Morrison, I formally surrender the Zephyrian fleet to your command. We are wrong to serve the Devourers. We wish to join your fight against them." Jake studied the alien's face. 3 months ago, this creature had conquered Earth and enslaved humanity. Now he was begging for help. "Why should we trust you?" Jake asked. "Because we have seen what the Devourers do to their servants," Cortheville replied. "They promise to spare our whole world if we serve them. But we have learned that they spare no one. They consume everything, even their allies." Amy Carter's voice came through the communication system. "Jake, we're detecting movement from the Devourer fleet. They're accelerating toward Earth." Jake made his decision. "General Cortheville, you and your people can join us. But you will follow human command. Agreed?" "Agreed," the alien said with obvious relief. The combined fleet moved to intercept the Devourers. As they approached, Jake could see the true scale of the enemy. The Devourer ships were enormous, each one large enough to carry millions of creatures. Their hulls were black as space itself, and they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "All ships, attack formation," Jake commanded. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world in the galaxy." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The awakened humans fought with the skill and courage of their ancestors, but they were supported by technology that had been improved over thousands of years. Their weapons could tear holes in space itself, and their shields could protect entire fleets. Amy led the ground assault teams, but there was no ground to assault. The Devourer ships had no crew in the traditional sense. They were filled with a kind of living darkness that consumed everything it touched. "These aren't ships," Amy reported to Jake. "They're like living creatures made of metal and shadow. Lisa and Tony worked together in the science division, trying to understand how the Devourers could be defeated. The ancient memories in their minds showed them glimpses of past battles, but the enemy had evolved since then. They're not just consuming matter, Lisa realized. They're consuming the life force of entire worlds. That's how they power their ships. And how do we stop them? Tony asked. Lisa looked at the readings from the battle. The human weapons were effective, but the Devourers seemed to have endless numbers. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more appeared. We need to cut off their power source, she said. The ancient memories show that they have a central node, something that controls the entire fleet. Jake heard the report and felt the ancient tactical knowledge flowing through his mind. His ancestors had faced this same problem. They had found a way to win, but the cost had been terrible. I know what we have to do, he said, but it's going to require everything we have. The plan was simple but dangerous. The combined fleet would create a corridor through the Devourer formation, allowing a small strike force to reach the central node. Once there, they would have to destroy the source of the Devourer's power. Amy volunteered to lead the strike team. I'll take 50 of our best people. If we can reach the node, we can end this. The node is defended by their strongest ships, Jake warned. You might not make it back, Amy smiled. Our ancestors faced the same choice. They chose to fight, even knowing they might die. So will we? The attack began with a coordinated assault on the Devourer fleet. The human ships moved like a single organism, each pilot connected to the others through the ancient neural links their ancestors had used. They fought with perfect coordination, creating the corridor Amy needed Dot as the strike team approached. The central node, they could see it clearly for the first time. It was not a ship at all. It was a living creature, larger than most moons, with tentacles that reached out to touch the other Devourer vessels. That's how they control the fleet, Amy realized. It's all connected to that thing. The creature sensed their approach and turned toward them. Its surface was covered in eyes, each one larger than Amy's ship. When it spoke, its voice filled their minds with overwhelming darkness. You cannot stop the harvest, it said. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. Your species is nothing. Amy felt fear trying to paralyze her, but she also felt something else. The courage of every human who had ever lived, the determination of her ancestors who had fought this same battle thousands of years ago. We are the children of Earth, she said, her voice carrying across the communication channels to every ship in the fleet. We are the descendants of the Starbreakers, and we do not surrender. The strike team attacked the creature with everything they had. Their weapons burned through its dark flesh, causing it to scream in pain and rage. But it was too large, too powerful. Their attacks barely scratched its surface. Then Jake arrived with the main fleet. Amy, get clear. We're going to ram it. Jake, no. You'll be killed. Maybe. But the galaxy will be free. Jake's ship accelerated toward the creature, followed by hundreds of others. The awakened humans were making the same choice their ancestors had made. They were willing to die to protect the galaxy. But as the ships approached the creature, something unexpected happened. The neural links that connected all the awakened humans began to glow brighter. The combined willpower of thousands of awakened warriors focused on a single point. The creature stopped moving. Its eyes went dim. The darkness that had powered the Devourer fleet for millennia was being pushed back by the combined light of the awakened galaxy. It's working, Lisa shouted from the science station. The neural link is disrupting its control over the fleet. The Devourer ships began to shut down one by one. Without the central creature to guide them, they were just empty shells floating. In space, the darkness that had consumed so many worlds was finally being defeated. Amy watched in amazement as the creature began to dissolve. Its massive form was breaking apart, releasing the energy it had stolen from countless worlds. That energy spread across the galaxy, bringing life back to planets that had been dead for centuries. "The harvest is over," she whispered Dot in the aftermath. Of the battle, the galaxy began to heal. The awakened humans took their place as the guardians they had always been meant to be. They helped rebuild the worlds the Devourers had damaged, and they protected the younger species from future threats. Jake became the first, admiral of the new Galactic Defense Fleet. Amy led the ground forces that kept peace across 1,000 worlds. Lisa and Tony worked together to understand and preserve the ancient knowledge that had saved them all. The Zephyrians kept their word and joined the new alliance. General Corthavel became one of Jake's most trusted advisors, helping to rebuild the worlds his people had attacked. On Earth, the labor camps were turned into memorials. The blue glow of the ancient facilities became a symbol of hope across the galaxy. Children learned the story of how humanity had awakened from its long sleep to save everyone. But the most important change was in humanity itself. They no longer saw themselves as a single species trapped on one world. They knew they were part of something larger, part of a galactic family that had been separated by fear and war. Dr. Corinne White stood in the rebuilt United Nations building, now the headquarters of the Galactic Alliance. Through the windows, she could see ships from 100 worlds coming and going. The galaxy was alive again, protected by the descendants of the Starbreakers. "The awakening is complete," she said to her assembled colleagues. "Humanity has returned to the stars. But more importantly, we have remembered our true purpose. We are not conquerors. We are guardians." Lisa looked up from her research. The ancient records show that this has happened before. The Devourers come, the galaxy forgets, and then the Guardians awaken to protect everyone. "Will it happen again?" Amy asked. "Probably," Lisa replied. "But now we know what to watch for. We know how to stay awake. The galaxy will never be defenseless." Again, Jake smiled as he looked out at the stars. "Our ancestors would be proud. They hid us away to keep us safe, but they also prepared us for this moment. We are their greatest achievement." The galaxy was at peace for the first time in millennia. The Devourers were gone, the young species were protected, and the ancient guardians had returned to their rightful place among the stars. Earth was no longer a hidden refuge. It was the heart of a new galactic civilization, a beacon of hope and strength that would shine for generations to come. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy was safe.